All right, let's look at this allocation of overhead. In this problem, what we're going to do is figure out which allocation base or activity would minimize the amount that would go to the accounting department. Well, we've already, in a previous problem, we have already seen that if you use the number of students, you would have 1,000,005 going to the accounting department. Again, that was determined by taking your total overhead costs, and then you're basically then dividing it by your total students. Again, all of these added together, and then multiplying that overhead rate by the number of actual students in the accounting department. If we had used number of classes per semester, again, what you're going to do is take your 3 million, and then instead of dividing that by your number of students, you're going to divide it by the number of classes, which the total number of classes is 80 classes, and the number that the accounting department then would it would be multiplied by the number the accounting department has, and that is 22 classes. When you do that, you get an overhead rate, or not rate, but dollar amount of $825,000, which is considerably less than the 1,000,005. So if those were the only two choices, your choice so far would be the 825. The last one is using the number of faculty, and in that case the total number of faculty, when you add that up, are 34 faculty in total, and the proportion that goes to the accounting department is 10, and when you do that you get a total of only 88,235. Now, in looking at this, you can see how wildly the cost per department would vary depending on what activity was used, whether it's students, classes, or faculty. What what companies have found over time is that they've got to be really careful in what they pick for an allocation base, because what can happen is you can get the let's say bad estimates of how much cost objects are. You can get what is considered misallocations, because you might have a high volume product or department get too much of an overhead, where if you think about it, they may have economies to scale, and that really maybe this 3 million, finance would get the lowest proportion. They'd only get 40 of the 340 divided by 300 of the overhead, which, do they really only deserve that much to be allocated? So here's what companies ended up doing. They realized that the single overhead rate wasn't the best way to go about it. And with the stiff competition, companies began to really look closely at their overhead and found that it was best to take the overhead, split it up into different pools, and then look at what causes these costs. And then based on that, pick your activity or your allocation base. And that's what we'll do in the next problem.